dealing with worms, real live worms. These had to be large Canadian night crawlers, but pretty much this whole segment is about how to deal with any type of worms. The big night crawlers, like these are great for a lot of different species of fish. The big night crawler worms are excellent walleye baits and largemouth bass baits, and these are alive. They are very alive. You can fish them with just a plain hook or a small jig like this. One great way is to just barb them one time at one end of the worm, just like so, and fish it just like that. You can fish it on a jig head, or you can fish it on a hook that you prefer for walleyes or bass, a hook of this nature. With you can have it rigged. A lot of the walleye trollers put them on rigged spinner harnesses, and just hooked one time at the front end of the worm, and just cast and retrieve slowly along the bottom, or troll it for walleyes is a great way of fishing earthworms. Another good way to fish a worm is to just pinch off a small piece of worm like so, and this would be for smaller type fish, panfish. You've taken a piece of the earthworm and simply put it on a hook like so. Now the bend of this hook, the bite of the hook is not very large, but it's a long shank, and the reason it's a long shank hook is it's once a panfish takes it, a bluegill, smaller fish, you can get this hook out of the fish easily with a pair of pliers, or frequently just your finger, just by backing it out. So that's why it's a long shank hook. It's probably only a size 1 hook. You can use smaller hooks for even smaller panfish or smaller wiggler type worms. That's a great way of rigging them up. Yet another way to rig a worm, a longer worm, night crawler, red wiggler, whatever you happen to have, would be on a hook and threading it on. You hook it at one end and just keep threading it onto the hook 3 or 4 times, getting all the worm onto the hook. This is a great way of still fishing for a host of panfish. Also bass would take it, usually fished underneath a float. That's a great way of fishing a worm. Yet another way to fish a worm, and again you can use large night crawlers like this or red wigglers, would be to thread the worm onto the hook at one end, just much like you do with a plastic worm, and just keep working the worm up onto the hook, or in this case a jig, until it comes up the shank of the hook or the jig. Keep working and working and working. Eventually much of the worm will be on the hook or the jig like this, and as that is retrieved, it's harder for a fish to get that off the hook, yet you have a lot of tail action on the worm. And this type of thing really works very well for bass and walleyes, trolling or casting, but it can also work well with panfish and smaller hooks and smaller baits, smaller worms.